This is on, right? Yes. Well, hi, everybody. It's a cozy little group tonight. It's fine. I have a couple of things. April, Prayer for Our Times, will be paused, but it's really not. It's just a different date because the collaborators are going to do the Stations of the Cross. So that'll be probably later, not Holy Week, the week before that. So details to follow, but not the first Tuesday of the month. And then we have May and June, and then we take the summer off. So there's only a couple more, and probably not me for May and June. We'll probably get somebody more interesting. So, it's the Ash Wednesday Eve, and so of course we had to speak about that. And I was reading various things, and I read this woman, and she said, well, there's no cure for being human. And I loved that, because on Ash Wednesday, we get the ashes, the symbol of our fragility, of our temporariness. From dust we were made, and to dust we will return. But I always think those ashes are also the symbol of the love of God, who sees us and knows us and embraces us in our beloved, imperfectible humanity. So it's kind of thinking about that. We're pretty limited creatures, but we're still beloved. And in that love and that sense of ourselves as beloved, there's hope. Now in this moment, I think hope seems a little ridiculous, a little dangerous. We risk heartbreak, disappointment at the least, and yet it's all around us. And I have to keep reminding myself, and that's why I'm reminding you, is to keep always looking for it. So in this dark times like this, when it feels like the world's gone crazy, I don't know if that's true for you all, but it just feels like all the things I thought I understood are out the window. I love what Mr. Rogers said his mother told him, look for the helpers. When you're in trouble, look for the helpers. You can always find people who are helping. I see some of them right here. Sometimes that'll look like tender care, sometimes like shouting, but they're all over the place. And I go to the Teresa of Avila, the hands and feet and voice of Christ. Prayer is action, and hope is sort of a muscular, energetic thing, not a wispy optimism. So I thought we'd take a little time, if it might be helpful to the spirit, to take maybe 5 minutes to run through the last few days and see if you can bring to mind helpers that you noticed in the community, in the world, something you read in the news. And what about that gives you hope? Just spending a little bit of time, a little bit of quiet time with that. So I hope I'm going to use my timer. Okay. Give me 1 minute, because somehow electronics, even if you get them all set up, they seem like they do stuff that you didn't mean. Okay. Yes, it did. All right. We'll take about 5 minutes. This will gong again, so we don't have to worry. I'm wondering if anything came to mind for anybody. It's a small enough group if you wanted to say. What came up for me is all the little tiny things that people do all the time, like get your legs out of the aisle when somebody's trying to walk by, or, I mean, really, it's constant, the kindness, if you pay attention, you know. So 3 or 4 sisters asked me if I had supper to make sure that I got something to eat, you know, because I'm here late. So just, you know, I don't know, does anybody have anything that popped up that you'd like to say? Don't have to. I just thought as long as we're so little, we could take that time. Yeah. 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 I thought that too. Yeah. 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 Yeah, exactly. Those people are still all over the place. Yeah. So I have this little blessing, and if you want to read along, it's fine. We're going to be very casual tonight. And if you don't, that's fine too. Blessed are we with spirits starved for what is good. Allow our eyes to open to see the small, sealed space where despair has isolated us, and cry out, God help me, I can't break out of this. Please break in. Cut through the walls of this hard prison and flood it with the light of your presence. Grant me grace to pray as naturally as breathing, to release to you all that I know and think and feel, and inhale deeply the lifeblood of your goodness and strength. Blessed are we when we realize that suddenly, already you are here, saying, peace be with you, breathing life and hope and truth, filling everything until the walls are dissolved and we are free to move in faith again. Blessed are we who smile in the certainty that in that dark space you were there all along, and as sure as day follows night, hope returns, and faith, the evidence of things unseen. Amen. So I know we have prayer and fasting and almsgiving going forward. So I thought I'd have a little bit of each. Fasting is an act of love, which is not how I learned about it, but anyway. So from Matthew, and whenever you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces so as to show others that they are fasting. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that fasting may be seen not by others, but by your God, who is in secret. And your God, who sees in secret, will reward you. So, to me, those words imply that when we fast, our focus should be on our relationship with God. And in this context, it means attending to anything, whether it's habits, tendencies, comforts, ego, that gets in the way of deepening that relation, including the pleasant sense of righteousness that comes from talking about what we're sacrificing. I'm going to tell a tale on somebody. There's a person I used to volunteer with at a soup kitchen that would always talk at length about how she gave up chocolate and didn't touch a drop, and didn't even have, because we grew up with the Sunday dispensation, you could eat your thing on Sundays. She was like, no, I don't drop, no candy all of Lent. But she talked about it so much. And maybe chocolate is the villain in her story. Maybe chocolate is the thing that stands between her and God. I'm going to say unlikely, but it's possible. But it's important to think more deeply about what it is that's in between you, that's hindering. I think of it as like a little cloudiness between myself and God. Busyness, maybe, bound to impress, or what you feel you need to do, but it might feed exhaustion and resentment. Often the thing we need to attend to is the flip side of our gift. You can get a lot done, but you also can wear yourself to a frazzle. Fasting is not about punishing ourselves. That's what as a girl, that's kind of what I learned, is you're supposed to really feel it. And you do, but it's not about that. It's about freeing ourselves from what keeps us from loving God and one another more fully. So if we think that way, that's how I think fasting can feel joyful rather than somber. It's a gift we want to give to the one we love. So, out of a sense of, I think of people you love in your life. I think of my kids or my husband in particular, and I think, you just want to do things for them. You're not trying to do things because it's the right thing to do necessarily. You're just like, oh, I bet he'd like to have that kind of fancy cheese, and you grab one, or whatever it might be. It just pours forth, and that's what this can look like, I think. So I found from the Ignatian site these little habits, this little script of consideration. Which of my habits are not good for those around me? And this is our act of love toward another. So I help my children quite a bit, and I think maybe I should stop. They don't always like my tips, for one thing, and for another thing, they're grown men. It's time. Which of my habits are not good for me? And that's a good one too, because you count. You're also beloved and taking care of those things that are, maybe you're not getting enough rest. I am doom scrolling. I am reading what the world is up to way too much. I'm finding myself in a funk. And then, what of my habits negatively impacts the greater community? So if I think big picture, global, or even Rochester-wide, what, if anything, negatively impacts that? And that is our act of love for the world. So, for example, I canceled my Prime, my Amazon Prime account, and I'm really going to try hard, we'll see, to not buy anything from Amazon. At least during Lent, maybe forever. And because I feel like that it has kind of become it's a couple things. Its leader is not a person I admire, let's say it very delicately like that. And the other part of it is that ease of grabbing up stuff. Oh, I think I want new kitchen towels. Let me get them. It's not good. It's feeding something in me that I think is not helpful. And it's not loving, because I don't need all that stuff. I think about, how many resources we use versus people in other parts of the world. So I invite you to take another 5 minutes and just kind of pass now maybe you already have in mind what you're going to do or not do. And I'm sure I'm talking to a crowd of people who knows, it's not necessarily giving up a thing. It could be adding a thing. But which of those might help a little bit of seeing or thinking about what might be a good Lenten practice, but based out of this sense of it's an act of love. So let me redo this if I can get it going. Let's see. Disregard. Okay. Does 5 minutes seem long enough? You want? do that. So there's another Jesuit I like, this Mark Thibodeau, written a bunch of books, but one of them on discerning, and he has this term pray dreaming, which I love. To daydream prayerfully about how your circumstances, opportunities, interests, and gifts can better contribute to God's kingdom on earth. And what he says is good discernment consists of prayerfully pondering the great desires that well up in our daydreams. It's kind of interesting because, daydreaming is supposed to be a bad thing, right? Don't do that, but to kind of let it be free and see what arises that your big old analytical brain part wasn't thinking about. And I'm curious, when was the last time you daydreamed, really allowed your mind to wander where your heart was leading it? It's kind of a lost art, I think, now. People are busy, people have ready entertainment, so just kind of sit and stare. I've been trying to sit outside in the mornings and just sit on my back step and just kind of stare. And not have my phone and not have, I'm not doing anything, but kind of just seeing what happens. So that's our next little bit of time to just take our mind, and then when we get to the last part, which will be about, almsgiving in the sense of time, treasure, whatever we're going to give, but to just sort of spend a little time pray dreaming. So I'm going to invite you to take a moment right now to kind of settle. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And ask God to free your mind and heart so they might go where they need to go. So letting go of what you already think you ought to do and letting the Spirit guide. Sometimes it helps to take a deep breath, kind of just get real comfortable in your chair. And when you feel ready, sometimes it takes a minute to kind of shuck off the thoughts. And when you feel a little bit settled, I'm going to ask you to imagine in the most vivid detail you can come up with how you would approach the next 24 hours if you were to be God's hands and feet and voice, and nothing was standing in your way. So you don't have that appointment you have tomorrow, forget about it. Or, the ache in your back, that's not going to bother you tomorrow. Just if you were entirely free to respond, to be God's hands and feet and voice, and I would maybe add ears or whatever it might be. And as you imagine, what are the circumstances? Is it here? Is it elsewhere? Are you tired? Are you with somebody in particular? Just noticing, really. Not analyzing, but just noticing. Allowing God to dream a dream within you of all the wonderful ways you might channel God's faith, hope, and love. So I'll do another 5 minutes and just letting that be free. Don't be afraid to really engage the details. Was there anything surprising in that for anybody? I surprised myself. I don't know if anything anybody wanted to note? It's okay. So Alicia has kindly agreed to read this Mary Oliver poem that I think speaks to the same point. Unless somebody has anything on your... I don't see anybody jumping up, so...
Thirst. Another morning, and I wake with thirst for the goodness I do not have. I walk out to the pond, and all the way, God has given us such beautiful lessons. O Lord, I was never a quick scholar, but sulked and hunched over my books, past the hour and the bell. Grant me, in your mercy, a little more time. Love for the earth and love for you are having such a long conversation in my heart. Who knows what will finally happen or where I will be sent? Yet already I have given a great many things away, expecting to be told to pack nothing, except the prayers which, with this thirst, I am slowly learning.
So this is that overflowing fountain metaphor. Having received God's love, we love others. I love that, though, that the love of God continuously pours into us, and then if we let it, it kind of flows back out. And I like this from the Catechism. We give others based on our belief that everyone should look upon his neighbor without any exception as another self, which is just a beautiful way to put it. And in so doing, we surrender some element of our own comfort. We begin to see each other as God does, equal and beloved. I remember that talk when I was in spiritual direction school, and a guy said, God's not very appropriately choosy about who he hangs around with. It's like, even those others. Yeah. So I went to Richard Rohr. Really loving people goes beyond what we think we can afford, but it has a multiplying effect. Even as we are diminished by loving action to the point of costing us time, money, or energy, the act of that action makes more. Love generates a ripple effect that starts by the change in the heart of the person being loved and expands into the hearts of others. Costly love does not extinguish itself in the effort and leaves us all changed. And I would say also in the heart of the person doing the loving. You know, as you do that, that's rippling out as well. So our last little quiet, what are the ways you can multiply Jesus' love with small acts of love in your family's community and country? And that's important, but also to make sure that you are accepting the love and that you have something to pour forth, because you count too. And I was doing this, I found this quote today. Human souls are irresistible. When we truly see another human soul, we can't help but fall in love. Something to think about. So when you're thinking about the, and I also, no, that's not going to go in there. I also brought this crucifix I got in New Mexico, and it's one of those Milagro, so it has all the things that people tap on there in their prayers. You know, there's feet and hearts, broken hearts, and all kinds of symbols of the things that people pray for, and they put those little silver symbols on there. And so it's like all the different ways that people need something. You know, it's a broken heart or a heart attack. Is it a broken, is it a physical illness or a loneliness? Is it that somebody just needs you to, give them a sandwich? So what are some ways you can multiply Jesus' love with small acts of love? And the last thing I'll say about it is I keep thinking about the Martin Luther King quote where he said, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't, it's not the size of the thing. It's the multiplication effect. It's the rippling outward of all the little things. So let's do 5 more minutes, and then that's that. just have a song, and you're welcome to leave or stay. I put the words in the middle, but if you want to get going, no hard feelings. All right. Good night. Thank you all for coming. did. Those are your, these, yeah, those were, yeah.
The Blessed Sacraments. They give the Blessed Sacraments.
Yeah, 'cause, yeah,
There's somebody must have had,
somebody, they do the adoration, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big time.
yeah, yep.
but this,
New Mexico. There's a chapel, Mayo, just this tiny little chapel. People go and pray, and there's a whole story around it, you know, and miracles.
They bring their ills.
They bring their ills, yeah,
I
yeah.
can't figure, that may be 11, it is.
It is,
Foot and 11.
yeah, yeah.
And another one.
Yeah.
Like a little baby, I don't think it's an angel, but it might be. I wonder if somebody, the angels are somebody who died.
Or a baby, yeah, or is that a, you know,
Child.
are you praying for a child, a lost
And I
child?
can't think of the, oh, that looks like an angel.
Oh, maybe.
Look at that, oh my goodness. And it looks like, I mean, somebody, I think people say they're angels, yeah.
I'm curious about the animals, you know, because they're not, yeah.
And they have, yeah. well,
You know, is it just like, yeah,
Was there a circus around, do they do?
yeah,